I'll start off with the expected question. So we're live, so we had a bit of a glitch there. Welcome to Normal Islands Live. I'm Curtis Daly, and I'm joined by the fantastic Kevin Logan. Kevin, how are you?
Was that the expected question?
No, the expected question was, why didn't you like our music? Because you're moaning about it in the studio.
Is in this rubbish. It's this rubbish music. Sorry.
Apart from that, though, how are you?
I'm extraordinarily well, and all the better
Good.
for being here. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. I feel the same. Now you're here. I've really cheered up, actually. And it's also... that wasn't sarcasm. And it's a Friday. It's a Friday. I mean, we're going to have a weekend after this show. But it's going to be... I think it's going to be slightly longer because we've got 4 stories again. So this is what we've got coming up on tonight's show. Lloyd Russell Moyle defects to the Green Party. New transgender guidance put everyone at risk. COVID inquiry shows the government was slow to act. And Donald Trump calls for the execution of Democrats. Now, you can help us grow by visiting turnleftmedia.co.uk/support to help fund our work, or by becoming a YouTube member for just 99p. But on to our first story. The Labour Party have suffered another loss, this time a former MP. Lloyd Russell Moyle, the former MP for Birmingham Kemp Town, defected to the Greens, as reported in the New Statesman. Now, it's understood that Russell Moyle plans to run for selection as the Green Party candidate for Brighton Kemp Town, hoping to regain his constituency seat. Russell Moyle was suspended from the Labour Party in May 2024. This was after a complaint had been made against him, but the complaint was 8 years prior. Here is Russell Moyle explaining what happened.
At the time, they said a complaint had been received, and they gave 3 vague statements on what that complaint was about, all before I was an MP. And I wouldn't tell me who had made it, but it was clear from the 3 allegations that that it was a complaint that had already been submitted to the Labour Party a number of years prior, and already been looked at and been considered to be either vexatious or non-serious. And the party said these were serious matters. And if you look at them, they weren't. And I said that to the party at the time, and I said, well, can I at least put my case? No, the decision's been made. You can't even put your case. You can't even write a letter for us to consider the alternative argument here. We've decided you're not going to be on the ballot paper. All you need to decide, they said, was how you want to resign. That was all the choice. And I pushed back and I said, well, I want to at least put my case that some of this is just untrue. And I was given 12 hours to respond afterwards. And they said, but the words they used, but it's a Hail Mary, Lloyd, don't expect anything to change. And so I put the case together, and including, during that 12 hours, I found out that the party had twice written to this complainant saying, are you sure you don't want to resubmit the complaint? So they had courted this complaint. A few months later pass, I'm off the ballot paper, I hear nothing from the party, and then I get a letter from the party saying, you've spoken too much about why you were deselected, we're going to start another disciplinary against you. And I said, well, hang on a second, Keir Starmer's office said that I had to make a statement. They said, you've got to decide the terms you resign. Oh yes, but the rules say you need to have confirmation from the General Secretary to speak about anything, and you didn't get it. You only got confirmation from the leader. So they then gave me a written warning of my conduct. And then in December last year, almost a year ago now, they wrote to me saying, we wrote to the individual asking for more evidence. The individual at that point has withdrawn their complaint against you, and we have no evidence to pursue, so therefore you're back in to the party. Let's forget it's all happened.
But you're not a Labour MP.
No.
And you missed the election.
Exactly.
Now, Lloyd contributed to one of the famous moments of the 2019 general election where he said no billionaires should exist, causing outrage from BBC broadcaster Emma Barnett.
Of the tax dodgers or of the billionaires, or are you on the side of normal working people?
The tax
What
dodgers
side
or
are
the
you on?
billionaires? Some people aspire to be a billionaire in this country.
Well,
Is that a dirty thing?
I don't think that anyone in this country should be a billionaire. I think we should have a system where everyone is able to live well and wealthy.
You don't think anyone should be a billionaire? How are you going to stop that?
Well, I think you do it by enabling everyone to be very wealthy, to be able to profit from the gains of their work and their labour, and make sure that profits are reinvested into communities, not just sucked up by one or two people.
Why on earth shouldn't people
so,
be
for
able
example,
to be billionaires? And how on earth are you going to stop them?
For example, in water, rather than allowing a few people to take the profits from our water companies and keep them in their own bank accounts, we will redistribute those profits of the water companies into a public water company. That is the kind of things that you do.
Excuse me, billionaires pay millions in tax. You are painting all billionaires as offshore, morally base individuals that no one should aspire to.
That's the kind of response you would hear from GB News, not the BBC. And I do love a response. What? You mean no one should be a billionaire? Yes! I mean, most people don't aspire to be billionaires. And even if they did, it's not going to happen. That's the point. The existence of billionaires is predicated on us being poorer, which Lloyd correctly gave the socialist answer. People should be rewarded by the fruits of their own labour. The Green Party leader Zach Polanski released a statement on the new defection. I'm delighted to welcome Lloyd to the party today. Lloyd will bring a huge amount to the Green Party. His story is one that is all too familiar, abandoned in the interest of power and profit over people and principles. Lloyd and tens of thousands like him have not left the Labour Party. The Labour Party has left them. Today, the Green Party has over 150,000 members and is polling second to Reform. The Greens are the home of progressive politics, and we're making hope normal again. It's worth pointing out, by the way, that the Greens have just announced that they've hit 170,000 members. So they're not 150, 170,000. Now, earlier today, I caught up with Lloyd to discuss his defection. I'll start off with the expected question. Why have you joined the Green Party?
To me, I've always worked closely and believed in collaboration. In 2017, the Green Party stood down and locally endorsed me, and tens and hundreds of the Green Party members came and campaigned for me in that election. So for me, I've always felt like collaborative politics were important, and the Greens have put their money where their mouth is with that. And now you see the Greens turning into a real broad church party that wants to make hope normal again, wants to actually deal with the problems that ordinary people are having up and down this country, as well as recognising that we need to improve the environment around us so that we can live healthy lives. And to me, that is a party that shares the kinds of values that I first got involved in politics for. And the Labour Party has moved away from those kinds of values. So those two parties going in opposite directions, and it comes a point where you have to make a decision. I go into schools and youth clubs around the country and I tell them, you've got to make a decision based on the party that shares your values, is going to listen to you and value your contribution, and is going to have a potential of gaining power to change the world. And I'm afraid the Labour Party is failing on all of those fronts, and the Green Party looks like a real alternative to turn around this country.
I suppose my question is, why now? I mean, you haven't been an MP for nearly 2 years for Labour. What is it about today, well, not today, the last couple of months, that's finally made you leave rather than maybe a year ago?
Well, I have... I'd be very honest. I was, as you know, I was suspended from the Labour Party. I wanted to make sure that my name was cleared. And so I had to wait a year to go through that process to find out that actually I had done nothing wrong. I wanted to make sure that I came to the Green Party with a clear bill of health. I also wanted to make sure that the Green Party was going in a direction that I really supported, and the Labour Party had been given all the chances that they could to go in the right direction. I think you have to give people a fair shot of it. But in the last few weeks, even more nastiness has come from the Labour Party. You know, this week alone, the idea that asylum seekers and refugees arriving in Britain might have their jewellery snatched by border guards. All you need is a zealous border guard there taking family heirlooms. To me, it's just inhumane, disgusting. The idea that we'll derogate from the Convention on Human Rights and the right to family life. This won't stop people wanting to come over to the UK. How you stop that is have fair and legal routes where people can apply, what every campaigner in this area has been calling for many, many years. Instead, what they're going to do is divide communities, make people more insecure, and, of course, basically bully some of the most vulnerable people that arrive in this country. That is not the kind of thing that I can continue to stomach. And to me, those things over the last few months have been the final straw.
So you mentioned Shabana Mahmood and obviously the new policies on asylum seekers. Now, when it comes to social issues, when it comes to immigration, I mean, are you surprised about how much the Labour Party has steered towards the right? I mean, a lot of people would look at Labour and the Conservatives and say they're both kind of neoliberal, but at least Labour were kinder to minorities. And in fact, it feels like, you may disagree, but it feels like in the last couple of years that Labour have even moved probably further to the right than the Conservatives on social issues. What do you think about that?
They are clearly further to the right than the Cameronite kind of Conservative Party. Yes, I mean, that is absolutely clear. And rather than offering solutions, part of the job of a politician is to offer clear solutions to complex problems and to offer hope to people that they can rally around. And the Labour Party seem to have abandoned that and instead are trying to ape the most revolting bits of the reform agenda. And by doing that, they don't get any more votes. We see that in the polls. You see that even in Denmark, where they're trying to ape those policies. In Denmark, a green-red socialist green coalition has stormed the polls in Copenhagen. And we see in parts around the world, actually, where socialists and greens are having to come together to defeat the old neoliberal kind of parties that have lost their way. And I think that this is probably what's got to happen here in Britain, and I see real hope in the Green Party to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always puzzled looking at the Labour Party. They keep moving to the right. They keep chasing reform voters. Polls show that's not the case. They're hemorrhaging support to the left, to the Greens. I mean, do you think they know this? Keir Starmer and people at the top. Do you think they know they're losing support to the left and they're doing it anyway, or are they so out of touch that they feel like, oh, just one more move to the right and then they can win back support?
They have two ideologies. One is to make sure that they are bureaucratic rather than populist. They hate populism. They hate the idea that you can be popular with the people or that you connect with ordinary people. They want bureaucratic solutions. And the other ideology that they have is that they think they win by tacking to the right. Those are the two things that they really believe in. And I think that the public have seen that, and it does not work. You cannot out-reform reform. All you do is actually give them credence, because what people say is, well, if you believe it, then it must not be too bad. Let's go for the full hog. I spent almost a year debating Nigel Farage. I have seen him close up, and I know you never win if you try and pander to him too much.
I really, really want to talk about Morgan McSweeney, because it's hard to get an honest answer from any Labour MP. I think partly through fear from the top. I mean, do you believe it to be true that McSweeney has complete control of the party? And even if, let's say, Wes Streeting were to take over, it's still the McSweeney show.
Look, I do not know Morgan intimately, so I don't want to speak out of turn. But what I would say is I am pretty convinced, from what I have heard, what people have told me, that the process went like this. Morgan McSweeney searched around for a candidate to defeat Jeremy Corbyn and Rebecca Long-Bailey, and they were looking for anyone, and they asked lots of people, and Keir was the one they settled on, not because they loved him, but because he seemed to be a good bridge to their project. And they said to him, do everything we say and we will make you leader. They never thought he was going to be Prime Minister. And now what they have done is they've isolated Keir, they've got rid of Sue Gray, and they've got rid of others that were Keir's people, and all you have now is a puppet master. And because Keir doesn't have any ideology of his own, because he was just a bureaucrat for most of his life, he doesn't really have any views beyond kind of centrism. Then what you have is Morgan McSweeney calling the shots. They don't really want Keir. They would like him gone, and they would probably like him replaced with an even more right-wing person like Wes Streeting, who still thinks there's a role for the private sector to in the NHS.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly seems that way from the outside. So,
yes, I think that's the established wisdom in the Labour Party. The established wisdom is that Wes is going around on manoeuvres, and I know from relatively reliable sources that that he is trying to make deals with people so that he could be anointed.
Yesterday was Transgender Day of Remembrance. I want to ask you, how do you feel about Labour's attitude towards trans people? It's been a real stark contrast in, I'd say, since maybe previous leaders were leader of the Labour Party and sort of Keir Starmer's premiership. You know, there's many trans people watch this show. I've got trans friends. And they felt like, at least with the Labour Party, okay, they might not agree on a whole host of policies, but at least they felt safe under them. What's your view on their shift towards trans people?
Well, I was at the Trans Day of Remembrance Vigil in Brighton last night, and there is a lot of fear in the community, but there's also a lot of resilience and determination that they will not allow this government to bully them. And they will send those messages to their friends and family who will also not feel comfortable with voting with Labour anymore. I mean, I drafted a trans-inclusive conversion therapy ban only in the last Parliament, and we didn't get that through by 20 votes, and half of the Labour MPs didn't turn up to vote for that. So already it was clear that they were going soft on some of these issues. And now we see the ban that they then said, Lloyd, don't worry, when we get into government, we will make sure we implement that ban that you've written on, that you've consulted and worked on, that is trans-inclusive, that will really change people's lives. And it hasn't yet come forward, and it's all been forgotten. And in fact, you see the reversal. And this leak of the EHRC recommendations is just absolutely shocking on how that people can be challenged just on how they look. It will scare a lot of people. And I think it is going back to this process of Labour being rather nasty. They're nasty to their own members, and now they're being nasty to the public and people in this country.
Last question. Do you think we can expect more Labour MPs or ex-Labour MPs to join the Greens?
Well, I know my colleague Thelma Walker, ex-Labour MP, has already joined the Greens. So do I hope that more will come? Yes. I do hope more will come. I hope, and I understand many Labour MPs who want to stay and still have one last fight to try and save a party that's in government, because you can make a change to people's lives immediately. I understand the good, hard-working Labour members that are trying to resist what's happening, I say to them, I think you're on a hiding to nothing. They have controlled so much so far. They will block alternatives to the right-wing direction they're going. And it would be better to come and join me and hundreds of thousands of other people in the Green Party and really build an alternative and build a new future for this country. And I hope that they do come. I don't think that people will come before Christmas, but I hope in the new year people will see that they're at the end of the road with the Labour Party, and the only alternative in this country for real progress is the Greens.
I mean, I appreciate you can't say anything specific, but is there any maybe whispers that you expect that there could be some jumping of the ship, shall we say?
I don't think that there's any individual that I would name, but there, of course, are people that you and I would all know, and your listeners will all know, who have stood up for trans rights, who have stood up on environmental issues, who have stood up on social issues, who have talked about wealth taxes. Those groups of people in the party, honourable people, who I think should consider coming to the Greens. But I respect 100% their decisions if they decide not to, because it's about what's right for their constituents, what's about right for them, and it's about how they best can change. But my view is that you can't change the party now. It's too late.
That was former Labour MP and Green Party member Lloyd Russell Moyle. Kevin, what are your thoughts on this announcement?
It's obviously a good thing, clearly. I think the Green Party didn't necessarily do themselves a great deal of favour by sort of insinuating in a roundabout sense that there was going to be a sitting Labour MP, because they just announced there was going to be a defection. And so people was considering maybe there was a sitting MP. But, you know, that kind of slight fly in the ointment aside, this is clearly a good thing. Lloyd Russell Moyle is in of himself not that important right at this very second, although we'll get on to the future in a moment. And he is problematic in a couple of ways, you know, his previous landlordism, although if he's joining a political party that wishes to abolish landlordism, perhaps he's in the error of his ways and stuff, you know. But what he is, and the way in which he is important, is not in of himself at the moment. It's what that is a symbol of. It's a symbol of a shift in momentum and a shift in the axis of power, if you will, if that's a phrase you can use about this, on the left in Britain. That the party that people go to now is not the Labour Party, it's the Green Party. When Zach Polanski was derided for his comment about we don't seek to do a deal with Labour, we come to take over from Labour. We come to destroy Labour, basically. In his victory speech when he was elected leader, he was absolutely correct. They basically have, in a spiritual sense, at the very least, for the time being, and very possibly in terms of number of members in the not too distant future, have taken over from the Labour Party. They very likely will end up with a similar number of MPs, maybe even more MPs, depending on exactly where the polling is and all the rest of it. And he is a symbol of this. A guy who was elected as a Labour Party member, as a Labour Party member of Parliament, who was then taken out by the right-wing cabal, as was he very eloquently described there, completely fabricated nonsense of a thing, in order to basically get rid of him so that they could parachute in one of their darlings. Absolute nonsense. So he's very important in that sense, and he's also important in another sense, because presumably he will want to run for his previous seat, Brighton Kemp Town, which the Green Party will have a significant chance of winning. It's a relatively progressive place, and the Labour Party vote is cratering there as it is everywhere else. And he has what very few Green candidates have, which is recognition, right? In the problem with having a party that's only just sort of risen to the kind of prominence that the Green Party has, it's gone from 50,000 or just over 50,000 when Zach Polanski was elected to, like you say, now over 170,000. It's tripled, more than tripled in size since he became leader, which is an astonishing level of growth. But it means that there's a lot of members. It's a genuine mass movement, but the actual infrastructure on the ground isn't in place, and that a lot of the Green candidates that will be selected in the next summer for the general election, whenever that takes place in this parliament, don't have recognition on the ground. They're not very well known. Whereas Lloyd Russell Moyle is already well known as the previous MP there. He has a very good chance of winning there because people already know him. He was quite popular and absolutely would have won and increased his majority had he been allowed to stand for the Labour Party at the previous election. So he's important in that sense. There's a very good chance he could be elected as a Green MP. But sort of to his point, actually, and I think there's been a very interesting point he made about I don't think anything will happen before Christmas, because you got to bear in mind that MPs at the very core of them are, I mean, really easily swayed donkeys, basically, right? They'll go back to their constituencies for a few weeks over Christmas and they'll have to mingle with normal people. They'll be outside of the Westminster bubble. They'll be away from the commentariat and the middle class dinner parties and all the rest of it. They'll have to go to Christmas events with regular members of society, and they will see how much the Labour Party is fucking despised. That's going to be a wake-up call for a lot of them. Now, most of them won't do anything because, again, they're kind of pathetic, scared individuals. But some of them might realise, actually, if I want to remain an MP, the only chance that I have of that is by joining the Green Party. And that's when you may see defections. And also another opportunity is potentially after the council elections in May, when they see how badly Labour are going to do there. They're going to get absolutely wiped out. They're going to lose control of major councils across the country, including very possibly Birmingham. You'll see defections next year. I would be surprised if you saw any major ones this year.
I think you touch upon a really important point, because it's not unknown to us that Lloyd has been criticised for some things, past landlordism. I don't know if he's still a landlord now, but of course that is a big wedge issue for us, especially in context of the Green Party's latest motion to abolish landlords. Yep. I mean, I suppose two things about that. One, I'm not so concerned if Lloyd is a very small-time landlord or lodger, because he's joining a party in which they want to abolish that. And policy matters to me. So I guess him joining the party is him saying, that's fine, I don't need to be a landlord or whatever. The second thing is, and this is if they implement a whipping system, which I would really like to see, a whipping system from the membership. Membership sets the policy and the MPs are whipped to them. Then again, you might not agree with him on everything, but at the end of the day, if you have a democratic Green Party membership, then I suppose it's the democratic will of the people. So I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't need a potential candidate for the Green Party to agree with me on everything. In fact, it would be kind of boring if everyone did just agree on everything. It'd be kind of pointless having a discussion at any point. I don't need them to agree with me on everything. I need them to have core principles that are solid, which he seems to have. He's talked about how billionaires shouldn't exist. Based as fuck. He's also talked about in that interview about how Wes Streeting still thinks there is a role for the private sector in healthcare and all the rest of it. So he seems to have his head screwed on in good key areas. So even if we disagree on some stuff and his reactions to certain things haven't been always perfect, I don't need them to be for me to think he is a potentially very useful person, both in terms of, like I say, the shift towards the kind of the shift in power towards the Green Party, but also as a potential MP or potential candidate for that seat, because he has a very good chance of winning that seat. And I'd rather he win as a Green than someone else be put in there that I agree with more that has no chance of winning because no one's ever heard of them before.
Now, I recorded that interview this morning. And later, I did see a resurfaced clip of Russell Moyle on GB News discussing the Israeli beeper attacks in Lebanon.
Lloyd, I mean, quite extraordinary events, but funny, isn't it? Israel, this very high-tech state, and yet on October the 7th, they were caught with the door open. Seems bizarre.
Yes, but there's been lots of criticisms, haven't there, about the intelligence on October the 7th. I think this, there will be some that worry that it's a new phase of war, as the Secretary of Defence said. I actually, and I'm not the biggest cheerleader for Israel out there, but I must say, targeted killings of belligerents in this kind of manner seems
far better than bombing and mass captivity, which is what they have done elsewhere.
That's a fair point.
So if it's a more targeted phase of belligerents killing belligerents and civilians not, I mean, you'll always get some.
There was a
civilians.
10-year-old girl killed.
You will always get some.
Yeah.
But one 10-year-old girl out of 3,000 compared to what we're seeing in Gaza. Actually, I would welcome. I don't want any war, but I would welcome, if we're going to have war, something that's more targeted and
without huge civilian collateral.
Less civilian damage.
Now, what Israel did in Lebanon was a terrorist attack, blowing up beepers in the middle of the streets, in the middle of the supermarket. As acknowledged in the video, a 10-year-old girl was killed. Now, I get what he's saying about not wanting indiscriminate bombing, but one, Israel had no right to attack another country, and two, it wasn't exactly targeted. I think Lloyd should have called out Israel there, as he's done many times. He rightfully says Israel's committing a genocide. But I think that is a video of quite a flawed position to have. But this is the good thing about the Greens, though. As I said earlier, now I'm not a member, so I'm not doing Green Party propaganda. But it's a statement of fact that they are a Democratic Party. They don't shoehorn in MPs. Lloyd is standing for selection. He's not an MP, and the membership will judge him and scrutinise him.
Yeah.
Kevin, I'll let you have the final word on this one.
Yeah, that was poor. Let's be absolutely blunt about it. That was a very, very poor way of putting that. One possible mitigation, and I don't know exactly when that particular thing was filmed. It could be that it was still a breaking, because it said source such and such and such in the Chiron. It could be that it was still something of a developing story, and he was commenting without absolute knowledge that we now have of what took place there. Now, it still doesn't, completely get rid of any fault on his part, but I think it's worth bearing in mind as mitigation. Now, in saying that, it's still poor, and I'd like to hear him retract that and maybe apologise. But even so, I think the fact that he acknowledges in that he's not the greatest fan of Israel, he's not a Zionist, which means at the very least he has chance for redemption in the Green Party.
Yeah, quite right. Let's move on. We've got another 3 stories to get through. So let's move on to our second story. A worrying new set of guidelines from the EHRC to be given to ministers has included stopping trans people from single-sex spaces based on their appearance. Transgender people could be banned from single-sex spaces based on what they look like, according to new equalities guidance seen by The Times. The guidance from the Equality and Human Rights Commission was handed to ministers almost 3 months ago, but has so far not been published by Bridget Phillipson, the Minister for Women and Equalities. Under the new guidance, places such as hospital wards, gyms, and leisure centres will be able to question transgender women over whether they should be using single-sex services based on how they look, their behaviour, or concerns raised by others. I mean, this is absolutely insane, but there's more, and it doesn't get better. The guidance said that if transgender people are excluded from a space, organisations should consider whether there is a suitable alternative for them, and that it would not be proportionate to leave them without essential services such as access to lavatories. But it also outlines how, in some cases, that may not be possible owing to the physical constraints of buildings or high costs. It said it may be that offering alternative arrangements is not reasonably possible. This may be because of the type of service being provided, the needs of the service users, the physical constraints of any building, or because of the disproportionate financial costs associated with making those arrangements. So basically, they'll try and find a third space, which is already dehumanizing, but if one isn't available, basically go fuck yourself. That's what they're saying. They're saying, we're not going to put in, I mean, there shouldn't be third spaces, but we're not going to put any money into third spaces because it's too costly. We're not going to have trans people in single-sex spaces because we're transphobic. So what are you going to do? Hiss on the street? Now, the guidelines, if you ask me, seem to deliberately be set up to make life for trans people impossible. This next paragraph confirms this. It also states that transgender people could be barred from single-sex services even when their biological sex matches, such if a trans man who was female assigned to at birth, of course, but is perceived as a man, attempted to use a woman's changing room. It says that they can be barred because they are likely to be seen as others as the opposite sex. So even if trans people follow the law, that doesn't matter because it's what other people perceive of you. I mean, did they not stop and think that this is going to affect cis people as well? I mean, a cis woman might not look like a standard woman or what a society conforms to a woman is in the eyes of someone else, right? What, they're going to be barred? I mean, we are literally in the age of transvestigation, and I don't mean on Twitter, but in real life. So what's the government response going to be? Sir Keir Starmer said last week that the ruling should be implemented in full and at all levels. However, the government was accused of backtracking by arguing in a court last week that transgender people's access to single-sex lavatories should be decided on a case-by-case basis. The judge said such an approach would be inconsistent with the Equality Act. Baroness Faulkner, the outgoing chair of the EHRC, previously urged Phillipson to speed up publication of the guidance and suggested that ministers were allowing organisations to illegally admit transgender people into same-sex spaces. Now, here's a big problem. Starmer says it should be done on a case-by-case basis. Faulkner says that's in contradiction with the guidance, yet the guidance says people can be excluded based on their looks, which is quite literally a case-by-case basis. Now, I'm not defending Starmer, by the way, he's a coward, but rather, and I'm pointing out the glaringly obvious and logical flaws in gender-critical thought. It's clear that Faulkner is so desperate to see the government throw trans people under the bus, and despite slight hesitation from Starmer, I doubt he will push back and implement them anyway, especially if we are to believe this. A government source said previously, any suggestion the government is delaying the code is total nonsense, put about by opposition parties intent on stoking divisive culture wars, not ensuring we have legally sound guidance. I mean, quite the insane thing to say that other parties are stoking culture wars. That's literally your government doing it. Kevin, what do you make of this guidance? Do you expect Labour to actually support state-sponsored transvestigations?
If anything shows that the Equality and Human Rights Commission has been institutionally captured by, I'm not even going to say TERFs because there's no feminist aspect to any of them, transphobes, to just anti-trans bigots, this is it. This is deliberately and spitefully designed to make the lives of trans people basically impossible, including, of course, as you point out, they're going to require people to potentially urinate and defecate, just in the street or something? I don't know exactly. Although, of course, what will actually happen is that most places, because of cost, will just turn their toilets into unisex toilets, which will make no one feel better because British people, by and large, when polled, don't want unisex toilets. Certainly, I don't think it would make women feeling vulnerable feel less vulnerable to have to go in the same stalls as men. That's ridiculous, obviously. But even so, this is such a clear sign of institutional capture. They are trying to essentially do a sort of almost a Nazi level thing here with the racial laws, where they can just sort of decide on your look. There's no science to this. There's no even good legal jurisprudence to it. It's literally just, if you don't look how we think you should look, given the gender we think you are, we're going to make your life a misery. Because be under no illusion here, the vast majority of people who will be directly affected by this will just be cis people who get confused for being trans because they don't comply with certain gender signifiers as laid down by, just weirdo freaks who go on about women being ovulating machines and just weird turf crankery. That's exactly what's going to happen. And of course, there are going to be transphobes like there are butch lesbians who have campaigned consistently for exactly this, who are going to find out that the leopard will eat their face and will eat their face first because they don't comply with this. They look too masculine. They will be denied services or even just the ability to go for a piss and or shit or wash their hands in the toilet of their choosing, or indeed in the opposite toilet because they look too much like the other thing. It's so unbelievably disgusting. This I cannot put into words, I don't think, how scary this should be. The EHRC needs to be completely erased now. It needs to be completely done away with. It can't be reformed. It needs to be destroyed and replaced with something that actually supports, guess what? Human rights and equality. Because what's actually happened here, or what I should say, what hasn't happened here, is that the AHRC haven't complied with their legal obligation to do an equalities impact assessment of this guidance. Because they know if they did that and were honest and it got published, this would kill it in the water, because it would show that trans people will be vastly negatively affected by this and therefore make it unlawful.
I mean, the EHRC has been a disgrace for a long time. It started with, I mean, maybe it didn't start there, but when we first heard about it was the terrible attack on the Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn, calling it like institutionally anti-Semitic. There was problems with that. And now the so-called equalities watchdog is arguing against equality. It reminds me of, I say it reminds me, I wasn't born at the time, but when we think of segregation, okay, you're a black man, you are a man, but you're black, so you need to go in a third space. Now, of course, if you say that to a lot of people go, "Oh, you can't say that, that's ridiculous." But in practice, it's literally no different. It's quite disgraceful. I would love to speak about this longer because it's an important story. But I realise it's coming up to 8:20. We've only gone through the first story.
Also, probably best to get a trans person on to talk about it.
Yeah. So I think we are going to move on. But fucking hell, though, this government is absolutely disgraceful. But before we continue, we would like to remind our viewers that we are 5 volunteers keeping this ship going. We do this around our paid jobs. Our goal is to become full-time, meaning we can increase our content and be far more ambitious and build a sustainable left-wing alternative. Your help has made so much of a difference already, from equipment to covering rallies and interviews. Your support means everything. We rely on small donations, so if you want to be part of a media organisation that seeks to destroy the oligarchs, then please head over to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support. There you can support us monthly on Patreon, or there is another link for a one-time contribution. You can also become a YouTube member for 99p. We also want to announce that next Friday is Zara Sultana's Eve of Conference of Your Party, and we are exclusively live streaming that. So before it gets to Your Party conference, if you want to watch Zara Sultana and others speak and you can't make it, tune into our channel because we will be live streaming it. Once again, it's completely exclusive to Turn Left. But let's go on to our third story. A COVID inquiry has attacked the previous government on their handling of the pandemic. The 800-page report suggests that had the Conservative Party taken the virus more seriously and acted quicker, lives would have been saved. Summing up part 2 of 10 different subject areas, the time addressing decision-making and political governance, Inquiry Chair Baroness Hallett. I'll start that again. Inquiry Chair Baroness Hallett said the actions of the UK's 4 governments repeatedly amounted to a case of too little too late. Had the government recognised the urgency and taken certain action sooner, she suggested the nationwide lockdown that began on the 23rd of March 2020 may have been avoided and 23,000 lives potentially saved in the first wave. That these same mistakes were repeated later in 2020 is inexcusable. The report blames Boris Johnson's role as chaotic. I mean, that's pretty clear. This is him struggling to answer why 5,000 COVID-related WhatsApp messages were deleted off of his phone.
Were you able to get access, ultimately, to the contents of that first phone, the old phone?
Yes, so we sent it off to some technical people and they activated it.
Was there a time gap, as your solicitors have described it, on that phone, a period between the 30th of January 2020 and June 2020, during which time the WhatsApps have not been capable of being reinstalled and disclosed?
That's right.
Do you know why your phone was missing those 5,000 odd WhatsApps?
I don't know the exact reason, but it looks as though it's something to do with the app going down and then coming up again, but somehow not automatically erasing all the things between that date when it went down and the moment when it was last backed up. So I can't give you the technical explanation, but that's the best I'm able to give.
The technical report that your solicitors kindly provided demonstrates that there may have been a factory reset of the phone at the end of January 2020 and then an attempt to reinstall the contents later in June 2020. May I just ask you this? Was it you, if that was a factory reset that was done, was it you that tried to reset the phone or not?
A factory reset?
There is a device or a capability on the phone which allows its contents to be entirely reset. That wasn't you.
I don't remember any such.
Factory reset. What is that? I mean, the guy's not 900 years old. He knows what factory reset means. Everyone does. Now, since the release of the inquiry, none of us are shocked that right-wingers are downplaying this, especially since many of them are ideologically in favour of free markets and against lockdown, because it does upset their libertarian free market beliefs, even if it meant saving lives. Andrew Neil said this on Twitter. Though I yield to nobody in my view that Bojo was just about the least appropriate person to have as PM when the COVID struck, I'm sceptical of the Hallett report's claim that had he locked down a week earlier, 23,000 lives would have been saved. First, it's easy to be wise after the event. At the time, nobody was quite sure what was happening. Second, that figure depends on modelling, and by now we should have all learned to be extremely sceptical of modelling. Labour MP Carl Turner hit back at him and said, "You forgot to mention that Bojo accused Keir Starmer of opportunism when he, opposition leaders, was in fact calling for a circuit break lockdown at the very time. Keir Starmer didn't just think what a good idea that might be, he was relying on what the expert medics were advising." Ironically, there's one man Turner didn't mention. That's right, I'm sure you can guess. Jeremy Corbyn. Why did he fail to acknowledge him when he was the leader of the Labour Party in February 2020? Now, what this inquiry has proven is that Corbyn was right once again.
We're suffering a pandemic. It's very, very serious, and the government just seems to be complacent and behind the wheel on this, and they're giving advice that is different to that given in almost every other European country. This is something strange, and that's why I've written to the Prime Minister demanding a meeting and also demanding to know what is going to be in the emergency legislation that's going to be presented to Parliament next week.
Now, it's not just Andrew Neil. Ella Whelan from right-wing website Spite appeared on Question Time and also dismissed the inquiry.
About this inquiry is that, it makes it sound like the only solution was to lock down harder and faster.
Had the lockdown been imposed 1 week earlier than the 23rd of March, the evidence suggests that the number of deaths in England alone in the first wave up until the 1st of July 2020 would have been reduced by 48%. That is approximately 23,000 fewer deaths. Had the more stringent restrictions short of a stay-at-home lockdown announced on the 16th of March 2020 been introduced earlier, when the number of COVID-19 cases was lower, the mandatory lockdown that was subsequently imposed might have been shorter. Conceivably, it might not have been necessary at all. Such measures as were introduced in England were unlikely to be effective. For example, the rule of six and the tier system. Yet measures like a short circuit breaker lockdown that may have been effective were not imposed in late September or early October 2020. The evidence suggests that had one been imposed in September 2020, the second lockdown on the 5th of November could have been reduced in length and severity and might conceivably have been avoided altogether. The obviously escalating crisis required leadership from the very top. There was a toxic and chaotic culture at the heart of the UK government.
I mean, that side-by-side was very helpful. Baroness Hallett literally saying that, yes, harder and faster would have saved lives. Kevin, the inquiry revealed a lot of what we kind of already knew. The worry, though, is that most people might not care, especially given the anti-lockdown and COVID conspiracies out there. What are your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, I mean, it was illuminating, this report. 23,000 deaths, that's a lot of people that Boris Johnson and his government have the blood of on their hands. But as to Jeremy Corbyn, um, has there ever been a more vindicated man in the history of UK politics? I don't think there is. Everything he said seems to have been shown to be correct. All of the policies he would predicted, if they'd come to or put forward, had they happened, we'd have been in a much better state now. Unfortunately, being a socialist in the UK means you're right years before Liberals and Conservatives realise that you're right, and then those same reactionaries do nothing to change or accept that they were wrong, rinse and repeat forever. It's infuriating. As Corbyn stated, of course the government should have locked down earlier and locked down for longer. They should have spent the public's money far more wisely than they did on things like Eat Out to Help Out, which made the situation worse, or giving a ferry contract to a company that had no ferries, for Christ's sake, or indeed just giving their mates down the pub millions of pounds of British taxpayers' money. Also, the government should have cracked down enormously on the dodgy PPE merchants like Michelle Mone, Baroness Mone, no less. I've never seen a less right or honourable person in the country, to be honest with you, but there we go. Corbyn was just right about this. And yet the establishment just didn't want to listen to him. Because, again, as you point out, the real world gets in the way of their libertarian dreams. And so they've gone, well, to hell with reality. Let's just do vibes-based politics. It's embarrassing, honestly. Some elements of this country are so despicable. And never more am I reminded of that than to remember that we had a chance of electing a genuinely good man who had the right intentions for the British people. Even if you didn't like his policies necessarily, he was a genuinely good human being who cared. And that's exactly why they had to destroy him.
Yeah, I mean, even during the height of the Corbyn years, a lot of people say, I don't like him, this and that. And I used always to say, but you know what? I mean, his politics were popular, by the way, not with the establishment. But he's a breath of fresh air. Like, he's a human. A lot of people say, I don't find him particularly appealing. He isn't slick. He doesn't do up his tie properly. And I was like, that's appealing to me, actually. I'm sick and tired of the Cameronite slick politicians. Seeing Jeremy Corbyn, he was like, just pretty honest. I really like that about him. Jeremy Corbyn must be the most vindicated man in British political history.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, it's not because he's uniquely sort of intelligent or that he can see the future. It just so happens that the ideology of socialism seems to work better with society and human beings than the ideology of capitalism, which seeks to exploit. It's just something about that kind of means, oh, wait, I actually kind of have an essence of hindsight before the bad thing happens.
Yeah, exactly. Again, it's whether you agree with his policies or not, I don't think you can ever really doubt that he cared and wanted to make the world a better place. And that in of itself puts him head and shoulders above his entire political generation, frankly, in terms of leadership anyway, backbenchers aside. No leader of his generation really has had anything like that kind of outlook on the world, which is exactly why we're in the position we are, where Nigel Farage is likely to become the next prime minister, because we have a generation of political leaders who are self-serving, slick salesmen, used car salesmen, disgusting liars who are out for their own benefit and for the benefit of them and their friends. Jeremy Corbyn wanted to make the world a better place, and they couldn't have that. They just couldn't. The jam man had to be stopped. Just like with Lloyd Russell Moyle. Anyone to the left of Genghis Khan has to be lied about. Either you're an anti-Semite or you're an indeterminate, whatever the hell the allegation even was against Moyle in the end. They have to try and lie and smear you in order to take you down, because they can't ever allow socialism to even get a foothold, because that would destroy their stranglehold on the narrative.
There'll be many things that people would disagree with Jeremy Corbyn on policy. The thing I'm going to die on a hill, and the thing I will die on a hill on, is that the man cared. The man, he cared about this country. He wanted to make the world a better place. You may think that some of his views might not make it a better place. I think most of his views would make it a better place. But if you're a conservative watching, you think, I think his policies are terrible, right? You cannot deny this guy actually cares. And I think speaking to those across the political spectrum, they all felt that. So that man cared, and that's a hill I'm going to die on. Let's talk about someone, though, who doesn't care. We're going to move on to our final story, and that is Donald Trump. So Donald Trump has openly said that Democrats should face execution. President Donald Trump on Thursday assailed Democratic lawmakers who told members of the US military they must refuse any legal orders, calling them traitors who could face execution. Trump posted an article about a video released on Tuesday by 6 Democratic lawmakers who served in the military or in the intelligence community. Seditious behavior, punishable by death, the Republican president wrote in a Truth Social post. This is the full Truth Social in all its context. It's called seditious behavior at the highest level. Every one of these traitors to our country should be arrested and put on trial. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. We won't have a country anymore. An example must be set. President DJT. And the next post he wrote, seditious behavior, punishable by death. He also reposted an account calling for them to be hanged. Do we have that one on screen? That's our next graphic. Yes, so as you can see, Trump says this is really, really bad and dangerous to our country. The words cannot be allowed to stand. Seditious behavior from traitors. And some of the bottom, a random Twitter Truth Social account. Hang them, George Washington Wood and Donald Trump reposted it. I'm not going to say retruthed. So what was the cause of this latest outburst from Trump? Well, it's because some Democrats have backed the military and said they would refuse orders if it's not backed by the Constitution. Any act of war must be approved by Congress and cannot unilaterally be determined by the president. Military action not approved by Congress is illegal, and the Democrats are simply reiterating the law.
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris Deluzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow. I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day
to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
Like us. You all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
And right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
but from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law
or our Constitution.
We know this is hard
and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
the Army,
or Navy,
the Air Force,
your vigilance is critical.
And know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
the American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws,
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
You know things are bad when you've got me defending corporate Democrats whilst defending the US military. That's how bad things are. Now, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt pathetically tries to defend Trump.
Let's be clear about what the president is responding to, because many in this room want to talk about the president's response, but not what brought the president to responding in this way. You have sitting members of the United States Congress who conspired together to orchestrate a video message to members of the United States military, to active duty service members, to members of the national security apparatus, encouraging them to defy the president's lawful orders.
The president and the vice president, for that matter, have accused the other side of encouraging political violence. Isn't that exactly what the president is doing when he says that members of Congress should be killed?
Why aren't you talking about what these members of Congress are doing to encourage and incite violence? They are literally saying to 1.3 million active duty service members not to defy the chain of command, not to follow lawful orders. Every single
can refuse an illegal order, which
but
is they're
suggesting, Nancy, that the president has given illegal orders, which he has not. Every single order that is given to this United States military by this commander-in-chief and through this chain of command, through the Secretary of War, is lawful.
Just to be very clear here, by the way, it's not lawful. Trump is giving out illegal orders, which is why the Democrats are saying, we're going to back you in the military. You don't need to follow these orders because it's illegal to do so. It's your right to refuse it. But Caroline there is saying you're defying the chain of command. Maybe it was a Freudian slip, I don't know, but she was like, that's their violence going against the president. I mean, I think saying that some Democrats should be executed is violent and violent rhetoric, not saying, by the way, the military should follow the law and not just follow a despot and dictator. She's also deploying the victim-blaming strategy. Oh, Trump may have called for the executions of Democrat politicians, but they made him do it. To reiterate, the Democrats are following the law. Kevin, quite an explosive story here. What are your thoughts?
I mean, firstly, no one should be remotely surprised about this. This is Donald Trump in a nutshell, right? He does fascism, not from an ideological standpoint, though, right? He's not committed to any ideology other than his own, aggrandizement and enrichment. He does it because ultimately he's a capitalist, and as a capitalist, he's a tyrant. Some of them are petty tyrants, some of them are grand tyrants. They're all tyrants in one way or another who cannot brook being challenged in any way whatsoever. But of course, there are checks and balances on a president of the United States, as there damn well should be on every elected official. If you're anyone who wishes to hold any kind of authority over any other human being, needs to be checked and balanced significantly. Anyway, but that's anathema to the kind of authoritarianism that is going to be inevitable as Trump's response. As to the point, though, of what these Democrats said, the precedent legally was set at Nuremberg. It's not just your right to refuse illegal orders; it is your legal duty to refuse illegal orders. If you consider the order to be illegal, you legally must disobey it. Otherwise, you have committed a crime. Potentially a war crime, a crime punishable by death in some territories and imprisonment in many others. The point is, you can't just say I was following orders. That's been well established now for the better part of a century. You absolutely have to defy this kind of Nazi-style government that they're trying to impose in America with things like ICE and all the rest of it. This is exactly what we warned that Trump would be and what he would do. And as to Trump's actual sort of retweeting or retruthing, that's such a dumb phrase, of literally a call to murder these people, it's interesting how quickly they forgot all the rhetoric around the death of Charlie Kirk. If you remember the time that Charlie Kirk was assassinated, it was the left and their violent rhetoric is leading to acts of terrorism against people. We need to tone down the rhetoric. Let's get rid of violence from political discourse. And now you have the President of the United States reposting death threats against serving members of Congress. He should be impeached and removed from office. He's unfit.
Of course, random Twitter and TikTok users mocking Charlie Kirk's death is exactly the same as a president of the United States calling for the execution of politicians. Of course, they're exactly the same. I mean, you're absolutely right. The hypocrisy. I mean, we heard it around Charlie Kirk's death, but before that, every single time there was a political assassination or violence, automatically it's the left. But you go through the numbers. I mean, we've covered this on Turn Left so many times. When you go through the numbers, the violence is overwhelmingly committed by the right wing in America. Yeah. That is just a fact.
Oh, okay? Absolutely.
Facts don't care about your feelings, Mr. Shapiro. I mean, the fact that surely he should be beyond impeached. Surely he should be behind bars. I mean, beyond bars for other things, right? We know that he's broken the law and the whole Jeffrey Epstein stuff. I mean, the guy is likely, but likely a nonce. I think I can say that. But just this alone, surely he should be on bus. He's calling for the Look, this wasn't a clickbaity thumbnail title. Some people might be like, "Oh, it's a bit, a bit clickbaity to get me to watch." He said it on fucking True Social. Execution. So this isn't hyperbole. This isn't us overblowing it. I mean, there is a case the guy should be locked up. He's a danger.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's, like you say, likely a pedophile. He is definitely a war criminal, undoubtedly, and now is calling for the execution of his opponents. He is the absolute archetype of fascism. He really is, and
No question.
let's say, keep it terms of service and say the only good Nazi is an imprisoned Nazi.
Yeah, good terms of service there. I wanna bring in Sarah for your comments. It's gonna be really good stuff. It's been a fantastic show. We've already, it's 20 to 9 and we haven't got to the comments. It's been a packed out show. I apologise for the longer show. Sarah, how are we?
Yes, good, thank you. Can everyone hear me? Sorry, I always try to scream just in case people can't hear me.
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, good. Hopefully no one says, "Oh, she's really quiet." But anyway, okay, so let's get into the comments. We'll go to the super chats first. So thank you for
Thank
the
you
10
very much,
for the
Ethan.
10 memberships. I wasn't even trying to attempt to say it.
By the way, become a member of this channel. By the way, you've got exclusive interviews with the star of the show, as it were, the actual news story person, Lloyd Russell Moyle, and also you're now doing the thing with Zara Sultana. This is proper media.
This is
None of your nonsense.
media.
Yeah,
And we're doing it for free because we're doing it paid.
Yeah.
Exactly. So give them money. Give them money.
Give me all the money. But also, please go and subscribe to Kevin Logan and give him bits and subs.
Yeah.
That's how you say it, isn't it? Bits and subs.
I approve this message.
Pay this man too, because we deserve the fruits of our labour.
Yeah, let's put that music that they had in that Democrats video at the back whilst we say this stuff.
Oh God, that was a bit cringe, though, wasn't it?
As long as it's not the intro
Falcon
music again. Jesus.
Oh God, Kevin. Lighten up, all right?
Lighten up.
Lighten up. No, I'm joking. Thank you so much for 5 left memberships, Andrina. Thank you, James, for 5 left memberships.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, Specs,
very
for 5 left
generous
memberships. Very, very generous. So we can go to this comment because I think it's really important. Guess the producer. I think it's our fave. Yes,
did they guess right? That's the question.
Yeah, they did, because I actually commented from my personal YouTube account and not turn left, which is silly of me. But anyway, we'll go to the trans story. Someone said, why only trans women? Shows how this guidance was based on old white guy bias, only concerned about what impacts their own views. But it's true, they always just seem to not focus on trans men too.
It's not just old white men. It's unfortunately it's old white women. These middle class, bored, pathetic middle class stay at home turf people who have decided that this is their biggest thing. The kind of J.K. Rowling, but without the millions in the bank.
Yeah. If you live in a castle, the mold gets to you and you turn transphobic as well. Like
that is literally how it works.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunately old white people of various types who are causing this problem.
They're diverse. The reactionaries are diverse. It's not just old white men now. Okay.
Exactly. They are gender balanced in terms of the bigotry now. So.
They are.
And the thing is, there's a specific reason why they don't talk about trans men, because it breaks their logic, because it's always been framed as protecting women. But if you have a trans man, then what do you do? Because obviously, especially if you're male passing, you
let alone if you have a non-binary person. How many toilets do you need now?
Fucking hell.
You need a gender fluid toilet and a trans man toilet and oh God, it's all over the place.
But it breaks their logic.
Or just let people piss and shit where they want to.
It really could be simple, because the thing, what's going to happen, I think, is it's going to go through all this process. We're going to go through decades of just state-sponsored transphobia, and we're all going to, or they're going to arrive at the same conclusion. They're going to go, maybe we just piss in the places we need to piss in. It's going to happen because, like, I don't have much hope for logic in this world, given Twitter and social media and corporate media. But I do think there is a kind of thing where logic can win in the end, in some cases, because the logical conclusion is just let people piss where they want to piss. But they have to use trans women or women, because the so-called victim of all of this is cis women. But of course, when you bring trans men into the equation, it's someone biologically assigned female at birth, transitions to a man, and it's like, where they're going to go. But obviously, the guidance from the EHRC says if you're born female, transition to a man, you're going to have to go into the female toilet. Actually, no, sorry, I got that wrong. They may not be able to go to the female toilet anyway because other people might mistake them for being a man. And it's like,
well, this is the thing.
Mistake in terms of their terms. Like, but that's the point we're making. Like, gender, like, it's very societal. It's based on a social construct, right?
It's quite performative in many respects. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the examples I would use. Do you want Buck Angel to have to go in the women's toilets? A big, ripped motherfucker.
Buff, ripped.
And do you think it's safe to get, I don't know, Blair White to have to go in the men's toilet? Do you think either of those is an appropriate thing to force them to do? Do you think anyone's made to feel safer or is actually safer by doing this? This wasn't an issue. Again, bored middle-class dickheads decided to make this an issue. Before, people just went for a piss and or shit in the toilet they wanted to, and everything was fucking fine.
Yeah.
It wasn't an issue until it became a moral panic from the media.
Yeah.
I remember watching, again, I keep saying I remember watching, but it was like the 90s. I was a kid. I remember watching a video recently of the 90s, and it was two trans women on stage, and they were just having a conversation. Well, the questions were very curious, of course. Like, no one had really seen trans people at the time, even though they've always existed no matter what right-wingers say. But it was still very inclusive. It was nice. The audience was cheering them, and no one gave a fuck about trans people. No one was scared. But of course, the corporate media, and especially GB News in this, have created a moral panic.
Well, this is how recent it is. If you look at the 2019 Tory manifesto under Boris Johnson, it's trans inclusive. They promised to put a trans inclusive, what do you call it? Not pray the gay away, a conversion therapy ban, but include trans people in it. Right, so and that was fine. Theresa May was also, largely speaking, okay with trans people existing. I think she certainly didn't lean into transphobic rhetoric by any means, and so that's how far it's come in such a short period of time. Where now you've got Kemi Badenoch screaming at Doctor Who on Twitter about how he's, former Doctor Who, David Tennant, about how he's, undermining women's rights by saying that trans people should be able to go for a shit. Ridiculous.
It's so stupid. Like, it's just not that deep. Like, just leave trans people alone. And
well, yeah, exactly, and that's the thing. I think what we need to do, though, ultimately, is point out the fact that from a self-interest perspective, cis people need to care about this as well, not just because trans people deserve to have rights and stuff, but also most of the people who will be targeted by this and basically sexually harassed in toilets and changing rooms and stuff will be cis people who are gender non-conforming in terms of their appearance. They'll be challenged.
But it might backfire, as you were saying earlier, that it comes to the point where, like, the leopards eat their face party, where there could be some gender critical people that get stopped and searched, and they might be like, "Ooh, maybe this isn't a good idea." Like, it shouldn't have to be that way, because as much as I really despise transphobes, I also don't want gender critical women stopped by the state. I think it's disgusting. But like, it feels like that's going to happen, and then there's going to be a backlash, and then everyone goes, yeah, let's just piss where we want and no harm done.
Yeah, and then they'll move on to whatever the next
whatever the other
culture war nonsense thing is.
Rachel says F segregation, separate but equal, doesn't work, as she donated $2, and I agree with that.
Rachel, it's not equal if it's separate.
Yeah, and then someone said the biggest joke here is that this is quote unquote equality legislation.
That's the point I made. Yeah, the Equalities and Human Rights Commission don't support equality or human rights.
Yeah,
no, they don't. It's like so ironic.
It's like
the not Equalities and Human Rights Commission.
It's that meme of the North Korean news leader, the North Korean on the Joe Rogan show, going, in Britain, the Equalities and Human Rights Commission don't support equalities and human rights.
Yeah.
No.
We are a fucking normal island, though.
Very normal.
It's not often, apart from the beginning of the show, I don't name drop Normal Island. That felt like watching a film and then the character in the film says the title of the film. We are a very normal island.
Yeah.
True.
That's I feel like I'm getting Inception in my own head. People are thinking, what the fuck is he talking about?
You're spiraling.
Spiraling, yeah.
Journeying Jordan donated £5, thank you, and said this gives transphobes the ability to accuse anyone and have them excluded from society. Ability to change docs means there's no way to prove you're cis. And yeah, and that's kind of what you guys were alluding to.
Also, thank you to Journey and Jordan for giving me my soundboard.
Oh,
They literally sent me the stream deck.
that's wonderful.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
What a
nice.
legend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big up Journeying Jordan. And then Rachel's donated another $2, saying, did Kev admit to chronically pissing on the seat?
I also
missed that. When did you chronically piss on the seat?
I didn't admit to that, but I do. So fuck you. No, I
There's,
don't.
I tell you what, though.
I lift the seat.
You know what? Screw having an interview with an ex-Labour MP. Screw doing a conference party. The real exclusive here is Kevin Logan pisses on the seat gladly. There's your exclusive.
Well, I was going to say, getting Lord Russell Moyle on the show was like almost as big a get as me coming on the show, I think.
No, it's not even close. He doesn't stack up to you in any way. No,
he does. Yeah.
Well, I'm being humble. I'm being humble. You understand?
Of course.
So the next one was about Bojo. Of course, they were too busy partying and having affairs. Can we just deep how crazy that time was? Like, there was so much going on. Videos of Matt Hancock just doing too much, and like the Eat Out to Help Out scheme that Rishi was spearheading.
Can I just say, the thing that will be seared in my mind from that time is a Tory minister on the news saying that Boris Johnson was ambushed by cake. Like, I've heard some bad excuses in my time, but fucking Ninja Cake takes the piss.
Do you know things are bad that you actually kind of start to miss Rishi Sunak? Like, and I miss him in a sense that
strong and stable with Rishi.
I miss him in a sense that, I mean, of course, like his policies and ideology are horrendous. You know, a liberal would be like, oh, maybe they're not that bad. No, it was terrible. But like, there was something funny about Sunak that he had no control over everything, and you could tell in his head, oh, this is just fine. But then he kept such a, like, in the head, it's probably good, but he's like, la 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 la, it's okay.
It's
and
honestly
quite funny.
The funniest thing ever, him announcing the general election in the pissing down the rain, with no umbrella. Look, literally, you've got a purpose-built press conference place in Downing Street. They built it to do fucking press conferences, and you went and stood there. You went and stood in your suit, like just getting drenched. I was like, it's like God was doing poetry or some shit.
Do you remember? But do you remember when we were suggesting that Labour are going to be just as bad, or maybe worse in some instances, and we were called Tory enablers? I think that they've been worse in so many areas.
We were called Tory enablers, and yet they're now possibly going to have to try and get their benefits cuts through on Tory votes. So who are the real Tory enablers exactly here?
Not to mention people like Christian Wakeford, who was literally a Tory, who called the Labour Party a bunch of CUNTs, then joins the party, right? That's not Tory enabling.
To be fair, they are. So
he's not wrong, but the problem is he was probably thinking of, I don't know. That's one thing he's right on, I guess.
And then Clara saying, he deleted the WhatsApp messages. It's true. The whole factory setting, like the way that he looks, someone had said it's like accusing a... Yeah, it's like someone said it's like a child being accused of like raiding the sweet cupboard, and it's like, oh, no, I didn't do it. I didn't.
Yeah, but he's got chocolate around his mouth.
Yeah,
and he's like, oh no, I didn't eat it. No.
Oh god, awful.
His answer though was like, "What is this factory reset? I'm like, don't.
What is this phone? Mobile phone? I've never heard of this.
It's a new Down with the Kids feature.
I only communicate via quill and parchment.
Yeah, and wine and cheese. Arthur said, I like the message, but it's just so USA on the last one. It was. Yeah, it was
the music in the background. It was cringe, and it feels disgusting that I'm defending Slotkin of all people, a literal CIA op who was defending the US military.
They're all dickheads because they're like, "Oh, I was in the military. Well done. You were a call of imperialism."
You probably all committed war crimes too. But that's how bad things are.
You should take me seriously because I killed loads of Afghan children.
It's true. I'm sorry. It's actually so sick. Thank you for your service. No, I don't give a fuck. Like, honestly, get fucked.
I tell you what.
You will never guess how many Iraqi prisoners I tortured for your freedom.
Watching Slotkin. Is her name Melissa Slotkin?
Who cares?
Anyway, when she was on Breaking Points and Crystal Ball absolutely slaughtered her, that was a great watch to see.
Wait, sorry. What was it?
What?
Sorry. Don't worry. I'm losing it.
Losing
I was laughing at Kevin. It's because sorry.
You're laughing at him or with him?
No, with him. Sorry, with him.
No, the world laughs at me. The world laughs.
I'm not laughing at you.
It's fine.
Oliver, sorry, I'm picking on you a bit. I always pick one person to use most of their comments. Oliver says it's because most people understand that killing fishermen indiscriminately is bad enough to seriously damage US credibility. If even I don't know what cuckboy means. UK condemns them. You know you got it wrong.
Oh, you're so innocent. It's like it stands for cute duck.
Yeah.
It's a cute duck boy.
I actually don't know what the cuckboy is. I'm gonna Urban Dictionary that in a second.
Yeah, that's what it means.
There are some videos. There are some videos online about
cute
it.
ducks.
You have to get VPN for that now, Kevin.
You do, or you have to prove that you're over 18 or by showing your pubes or something. I don't know.
Oh God, too funny.
Right, the show's gone downhill.
It has, but this is the last comment. Kevin's a genuinely good human being.
Oh,
that's not fucking true.
That needs to be a headline story because it's so
you are so wrong. Bless your heart, you are incorrect.
You must be new here, Arthur. No, I'm joking.
You must be new.
You must be new. But that's it for the comments. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Wonderful, wonderful comment section.
True.
But of course, that is all we have time for. Thank you to our viewers who tuned in. And of course, thank you to Kevin for joining me tonight. How was the show?
It was it was an emotional roller coaster as always. Thank you for having me on.
Now you're taking the piss, but I'll take that anyway. Remember to like the stream, and if you're not a subscriber, then please hit that button. If you want us to grow, then you can head over to turnupmedia.co.uk/support. There is a link to our Patreon where you can support us monthly or follow the other link to give us a one-time contribution. Alternatively, you can become a YouTube member for just 99p. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.